the Cabinet has approved the formulation of the 8th Pay Commission. The commission, which will have a chairman and 2 other members, will be established within 2 weeks. The 8th Pay Commission is going to come into effect from the 1st of January 2026. Now remember, over 1 crore government employees, about 1.15 government employees to be exact, are likely to benefit from the 8th Pay Commission. This includes about 5.49 lakh central government employees, out of which about 4 lakh are likely to be Delhi residents, and 65 lakh pensioners. All of these are going to be eligible for the benefits accruing from the 8th Pay Commission. Now, there's also the fitment factor, and that fitment factor is likely to be in the range of about 2.3% onwards, leading to a pay hike, an expected pay hike of about 34.1% when it comes to the salaries of government employees. Minimum pay for government employees is likely to be raised from 18,000 rupees to about 41,000 rupees. So this is a massive jump which is likely to accrue to government employees from the 8th Pay Commission. Now, there's also a DA factor to the wages and the salaries of government employees. The daily allowance of about 70% is likely to be effective by 2026, and this is likely to be added back to the basic pay, which is going to take up the 18,000 minimum salary to about 41,000 when you add the DNS allowance also to it. And finally, this decision comes just weeks before Delhi goes to polls. That's right, 5th of February is when Delhi goes to polls. And this decision by the central government to go ahead and announce the formulation of the 8th Pay Commission is coming just weeks before Delhi goes to elections, I beg your pardon, and Delhi has about 4 lakh or so government employees resident in the city. Now, let's look at historically what the timelines of implementation of the pay commissions have been. On your screen right now, remember, the first pay commission was implemented in the year 1947, the year of independence. There was a good 12-year gap before the second pay commission was implemented in 1959, and about a 14-year gap for the third pay commission to be implemented in 1973. The next pay commission came again 13 years later. The fourth pay commission was implemented in the year 1986, followed by another 11-year gap before coming to the fifth pay commission in 1997. The next pay commission, the sixth pay commission, came in the year 2008, followed by the seventh pay commission, the one which is in force at the moment for all government employees. That came in the year 2016. Remember, the decision for the seventh pay commission was announced in 2014 by the UPA government under then Prime Minister late Dr. Manmohan Singh. The eighth pay commission is likely to be implemented from the 1st of Jan 2026. All right, and let's look at how the 8th Pay Commission is likely to have an impact on not just the employees, the central government and the retired government employees, but also overall on the economy. Well, the 7th Pay Commission is likely to give more income in the hands of government employees. Central government employees are likely to benefit from this additional pay, as well as the DNS allowance that gets added to the pay by way of the 8th Pay Commission. Now, add to that, there is going to be obviously a fiscal or an economic support for pensioners. Remember, we told you earlier, there are about 65 lakh pensioners, including defense personnel, who have access to the benefits of the 8th Pay Commission. So the economic support for pensioners is likely to be large. Now, what does this really do? This means that there is going to be more disposable income in the hands of serving central government employees, as well as those who have retired from the central government post, including defense personnel. And this is going to lead to higher consumption, higher spending, overall something which is likely to bode well for the Indian economy, which is reeling under pressure at the moment with a slowdown in consumption, especially in urban areas. Now, add to that, there is going to be, with this increased salary, improved living standards as well for serving as well as retired government officials. Add to that a simplified pay structure, and that is likely to be announced as part of the 8th Pay Commission. There's going to be a simplified structure with talks of possibly merging dearness allowance, which is added as a measure of inflation every year along with the basic pay. Let's understand this in greater detail. We have joining us this morning Mr. Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee. He's an author and a senior journalist, contributing editor of the Business Standard. Good morning, Shubhamoy. Thank you for joining us on this very important story, which is related to the 8th Pay Commission. Now, we've run through what this Pay Commission is likely to entail, but what is it going to mean for the central government employees and the pensioners? How much do you expect their salaries to go up by?
There's a thing called a fitment factor.
Right.
We can't go into the fractional details of it in a show, but roughly it is something like what you would expect is between 2.85 to 2.95. So let's say that a salary, which is something like, say, 50,000 to 1 lakh. So the fitment factor, if it's 2.85 or something, would take them on to something like 150 for 1 lakh salary. It will take it almost like to 150 or 155 or so. That would be the expectation. While the government, of course, would expect to try to keep it reduced low, but this is what the employees are expecting. So essentially, now it's going to be a very stiff bargain between the government employees, unions, and the government departments and the pay commission to decide what will be the amount of additional hike in the salary. And that is where the trick always comes along, because while the government always goes in with the impression, at least even with the 7th Pay Commission, the idea was that the jump up will not be huge, but it did have an effect on the government finances of about 1 trillion in the first year. Yeah.
All right. So 1 trillion was the loss to the government in the first year of implementation of the 7th Pay Commission. But help us understand, is this going to likely impact state government employees as well, which those employees do get more increments more regularly and their salary adjustments happen more regularly. But are state government employees also going to possibly come at par with the central government employees with the introduction of the 8th Pay Commission?
Certainly. I mean, this is as soon as the central government the award is given by the Pay Commission, the state government each state government then starts putting in its own Pay Commission into place. Some of them use the central formula itself. So you can be sure that in every state, every autonomous body, every government-run institution, which is the public sector institutions, across the board, there'll be change in the wage structure. Yes.
All right. And now, of course, we know that this is likely to be implemented only from the 1st of Jan 2026. But the government has announced the decision to formulate the commission just days before the union budget and pretty much, less than 3 weeks before Delhi goes to polls. Now, what is the political connotation of this, Shubhamoy?
Huge. As you can see, you rightly pointed out that Delhi is a very majorly government employee influenced constituency, if I can call the entire city as a constituency. Delhi, so definitely it has a very significant effect on people. They like it. So this is definitely going to have an impact. And while obviously the government will say, no, come along, the implementation will be much later, but the announcement is very significant. It's very significant, and it's going to create even more rush for government jobs. Yeah.
Okay. But I think central government employees, both serving and retired, in any case, know that almost every 10 years or so, there is going to be a bump up in salaries. And this is going to come into effect only in 2026. So do you think they will pretty much, fall prey to the government announcing it at a time like this? Or will they be smarter than that and know that there are not going to be any direct, benefits of whichever government comes to power in Delhi to decide how much salary they will eventually make in 2026?
Well, that's a good point, but I'll tell you what. For quite some time, after the 7th Pay Commission, it was more or less agreed, there was enough amount of commentary that there should be no further Pay Commission. the Eighth Pay Commission was not axiomatic. Nothing in any constitution or anywhere is it written that every 10 years it has to be. It was an accepted principle that was picked up that yes, every 10 years there'll be the correction phases, but that was in the early years of the Republic. And after that, it has been happening. The Eighth Pay Commission was definitely not something which was accepted. And I know for a fact that quite a bit, I mean, the finance ministry was extremely reluctant to agree to the clamor for a pay commission for very good reasons, because the nature of the government jobs have shifted. There's far more level of government employees now who are contractual, for whom the pay commission doesn't immediately have an impact. So there is lots, and besides the very idea that the government employee should actually, get the jump up before anybody else gets it, and it should be considered as an automatic. Because already, as you say, every 50% rise in the DA, which is the DNS allowance, in any case gets merged in their salary. So the dynamic pay structure adjustment was already happening.
Right.
So that is why, if people think that it's going to be just simply merging of all that and that's about it, and the pay commission will just simply say, well, that's a formality, that's done. I don't think they're getting it right. There is going to be a bump up, and that is where the problem is. This is going to create quite an additional expenditure pressure on the government. Yes.
Okay, and that is something which I think is something that the government will find hard to accommodate in its budget. But talking about the budgetary pressure and the fiscal pressure, there is also this whole debate on pension. And again, for employees who happen to be with the old pension scheme, this is great news. But employees who have opted for the new pension scheme, or may in future opt for the UPS, the Unified Pension Scheme, how is the pay commission likely to interfere with the salary or the pension that they will draw?
Well, obviously, when the pay commission makes its decision, gives its recommendations, remember there's one thing that you must notice: while the finance commission decision is an award, the government is actually supposed to, under the constitutional scheme of things, to accept it. The pay commission is not an award; it is not a constitutional body. It gives recommendations, but the government always accepts the pay structure that it suggests. Right. Now, in the pay commission, what happens is that this will definitely be the pension issue is definitely going to be one that they will look into very carefully. The unified pension scheme that has been brought in will definitely now be worked on in line with the new pensions, with the new salary structure that's going to happen. In fact, the government employees, one of the key reasons why they wanted this pay commission to come in was to basically get a sort of a additional, not just additionality, but to also bring their pension to a much more comfortable level than what they think they have been getting so far under the new pension scheme.
Okay. Shubhmoy, you were talking a few minutes back about the fiscal impact of the 7th Pay Commission costing about 1 trillion or about 1 lakh crore rupees to the exchequer. But now with this 8th Pay Commission coming, there is obviously going to be, I believe the number will be much higher than the 1 trillion rupees or 1 lakh crore rupees. But then are there benefits which are likely to accrue back to the GDP growth, given the fact that consumption is likely to pick up after there's more disposable income in the hands of government employees?
I'm a conservative. I don't think that giving extra salary at the higher end of the income bracket really does anything of that sort. I mean, there are lots of other better ways of doing it. For instance, one can do a uniform tax benefit adjustment. There have been, on your show and in other places, we have been discussing that there should be better tax. The personal income tax needs a bit of a rejig. And if it's done, then not just the government employees, but people across the board, all salaried employees, and those who are now, because we are now talking of bringing in more and more people into the employment structure, formal employment structure, they will be benefited. So that definitely has a much larger and beneficial effect. Government employees getting on higher salary, and that too at a very, almost this is like an advertisement for saying that you should join the government service. It actually, to my mind, it creates more pressure. It creates an unhealthy race to join the government service. And already we have seen in 2024 so many photographs of people lining up madly to try appear for government jobs, the amount of effort that is made in, especially in the northern states, to get into government jobs is humongous.
Right.
All this actually leads to a very strong, I would say, a bit of a perverse effect. So I'm not very comfortable with the idea that you raise the salaries of the government employees, and that leads to a rise in the consumption. I mean, there were much easier ways to have done it. A cut in
Right.
the GST, for instance,
Right.
does the same work, but much more smoother and has a much more widespread effect.
All
I'll
right.
go back to the release date. Yes.